Grandma has this dress.
No, neither.
I feel like Harry Potter. Too librarian. Too Bono?
No.
No. No. Big no.
Yes.
I look a little bit like a bumblebee. How long you been in these parts?
Blah. If sadness had a color. I bought this? Your Honor, I object.
No. This is so much like my dad.
That is the ticket.
Support for KQED Live comes from Berkeley Rep and the San Francisco Symphony.
Disproportionate impact of
more than half of black business owners
and disproportionate.
Somehow we always find a way to rise.
To the blueprint builders, to the backbones of every block, for the curators of the culture, and for generations to follow. You might fall, but never fail. Keep rising, keep rising, keep rising. Apply for business, marketing, and tech makeovers on us.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? All right. I'm so excited for what we have tonight. I'm so excited about this collaboration between KQED and Radiolab. It's been an amazing journey to get here, and I can't wait for you to see it. But before we start, I have a few things to say for you, to you, of you, all of those things. So please, bear with me. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors. We have 4 amazing seasoned sponsors who make everything that we do here possible. They are Asian Art Museum, Berkeley Rep, Comcast Business, and the SF Symphony. Let's have a round of applause for those sponsors. The thing that they sponsor is KQED Live. KQED Live is the events arm of KQED Public Media, and we put on all kinds of amazing live shows for you here at 2601 Mariposa in San Francisco and online at youtube.com/KQED Live. For all of our upcoming shows, you can go to kqed.org/live and register there. And I want to tell you about 2 things that we have coming up that are very special to us. The first is KQED Fest. It's an amazing open house and block party here at KQED. We're going to have a noise pop stage outside on York Street. We'll have a couple food trucks. We'll have art, entertainment, music, anything that you could possibly want. You can roam our building or roam the streets. Please join us. Register at kqed.org/live. And the other thing that we have coming up, the KQED Fest is on April 29th, Saturday, April 29th. So that's coming up real soon. We hope to see you there. The other one is on May 2nd, Tuesday, May 2nd. We are celebrating the launch of a very special book. It is Bay Curious, Exploring the Hidden True Stories of the San Francisco Bay Area. This is... Thank you. Yeah. I know that some of you out there are Bay Curious fans. You'll love this celebration. We've chosen a few of the stories from the book to highlight here on stage. There'll be music, performance, interview, show and tell, food, and more. So please register online for those. So the next thing I have to tell you is about these headphones that you have discovered on your seats. I just want to do a quick sound test because we're going to be using these 3 times. No, don't put them on yet. I'll tell you what to do. Don't get ahead of me. What's the matter with you? I'm just kidding. You're so good. I don't want your ears to get blown out, so we're going to do a quick sound test. On these headphones, you'll see 3 things. There are 2 yellow switches. Don't touch those yellow switches. You can just leave these headphones on and leave them on the channel on which they are. And the other thing is the volume knob. The volume knob is on the earpiece opposite the yellow switches. Find that. If you have these on your head and you rotate the volume knob up, that decreases the volume. If you rotate it down, it increases the volume. So please take the headphones off. Please take the headphones off. Mike, go ahead and run our test and give me a thumbs up when it's playing. Great. You can put the headphones on and adjust your volume to a comfortable level, please. Adjust your volume to a comfortable level. I can say anything I want to now, can't I? You can't hear a thing that I'm saying. Nope. I can make fun of every one of you silly-looking people out there. And you at home, please bear with us. We're not hearing anything, Mike, on the headphones right now. Oh, we are. Raise your hand if you do not hear anything. Mike, looks like red channel is not getting anything. All right, we're almost there. Is this fun for you at home? Are you enjoying this little test? Why don't you test something of yours at home? Okay, do we have red? Is red hearing anything? Great, okay. Now that your volume is at a comfortable level, don't touch it until you need to. We'll instruct you when to put the headphones on. It'll be very simple. You're all doing a wonderful job. You're beautiful, you're wonderful, we love you. Okay, finally, one fun thing before we start, we have a special giveaway tonight. If you could please reach under your seats, and if you find a cassette tape taped to the bottom of your seat, then you win some KQED swag. Does anybody have, oh, we have a winner. Green headphones with the hands up right there. All right, congratulations. That's enough of me. I have been Lance Gardner. I will be all along. And now, to begin the show, a very special treat, I would like to introduce Bay Area Theater Cypher.
One, two. How's everyone doing tonight?
Check, 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 check.
All right. We're going to get the night started off with something a little bit different, something a little bit made up in the moment, a little bit of improvisation, some beatboxing. First, we're going to get it started with my man, Infinite, right here. Make some noise for Infinite. Make some noise, San Francisco. Infinite. So as Lance said, we are the Bay Area Theater Cypher. We're a collective of hip-hop theater artists and musicians who live on the crossfader of music, theater, and arts activism. And we know that KQED sent out a survey, I think a couple days ago, maybe yesterday, and asked for you to send in a few ideas of your own. So we've got two lists here. One, which is one thing you wish you could improve about yourself. And the second one is, what do you wish was different about the circumstances of your life? So we're going to take these ideas and we're going to just make something up right here. You ready for it?
On the spot.
On the spot.
We need your energy, y'all. Make some noise. Energy, let's go.
Yes. I'm writing this right now. No pad or pen. But this is the thought that came to us from Jen. Yes, one thing to improve yourself is start living, start being more forgiving. That means taking a deep breath, but I'm not specialist, but I hit this microphone over instrumentalists like backflips with my lips and my tongue, with the beatboxes hitting from the 4 to the 1.
Hey yo, but we're not done, cause you know that we be freeing. And this one right now, shout out to my man Ian. Yo, it's all good, yo, we about to make it hot like a sweater. I'm about to express my emotions much better. Yo, that's the goal that I have in my head. The different circumstances in my life that I dread. Yo, it's all good. You know it's here to work it. I'm here to be independent and really make it work it.
Hey Jen, sorry I wasn't finished, but we gotta share the microphone so he could begin again and jump on in. Yes, I think you dream to be a vet and have a future immortal basset hound as a pet. An emotional animal that would treat you real nice. You could grow up from a child till you were a wife or a hunt or a son or all together. My tongue is sticking to the top. This is the weather.
Oh, this is the weather, but this one goes out to Mickey. I'm trying to be able to express my thoughts much more quickly. And you can see I did it in the spot to make it hot. Everybody right now, come on, you know you like it a lot. But yo, speaking of that, I have to work this. I wish my partner's politics were much more moderate and not so conservative. That's a lot to get out of my mouth, but I know you heard it quick.
My wife called me up and said, how do I cook the Brussels? I said, not now. I'm trying to give advice to Russell. So listen, this is my dream, that we could unite and give each other self-esteem so we could grow up and have all the pens and the ends. Yes, because it would be real nice to have more friends. I feel that. I grabbed the microphone so I could bust. I love my father, but I think you wish you had one you could trust.
Yo, for real, this one keeps trying me. Shout out to Leah. I also wish I had less anxiety. It's all around in the space. I'm trying to show you that you don't have to show it on your face. Speaking of which, yo, it's never to end. I freestyle for sure. I get to the bend. And after that, yo, I don't pretend. I would be nice if I had a lot more freestyle friends.
Yes. Like someone who could step up and battle me. So this one goes straight out to Natalie. Yes, the pennant, we come from a crew called Felonious. You want to be more generous, more spirited, less judgmental. That is the mental. At the end, you could be that more judgmental or less stepping it back. It's really funny. My advice is to work harder so you can make less money.
Yes, that's the truth. I know you gotta feel it in your soul. Like Katie, I'm just trying to let go of control. Right here on the stage, this is freestyle, that's why it's not written on the page. Speaking of, you know, I gotta make it work. I felt inspired at work, that's why I wrote this freestyle in my head, so all my people can throw their hands to the sky, you know that we fled.
You can put them up. Like Ali, we came to change things up. Oh, getting next to me to meant to be. Sit on the couch, we could watch more documentaries. My favorite was about that squid, or about that thing that could flip back the lid. That blows my mind every time I got to Doherty. Man, I wish that I had retired at 40.
Oh, speaking of which, there's no retirement. Everybody knows in this life, we just keep working till we're tired. It's just the way that it works. That's why I wish I had a more positive outlook. Speaking of which, this one's for Chrissy. Yo, for real, in my deliriums. I wish my parents were more able to provide guidance and share life experiences. Wow, another mouthful.
That means you're global, all over the world, to live in 2 cities across the Pacific Ocean, girl or boy. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm speaking to the one who sent it in. Jude, is that you? Is that you? Is that you back there? I don't know, because I'm standing up here. I never come and grab the microphone. I try to be real, not fake, so let's do some calisthenics on the mic so we can get in shape.
Now let's make something very clear. I brought a mask because I'm stopped living in fear. I'll be right up in here. You know that I said that. It's okay, and I don't have to really take it back, but it's okay. You know how we do it, make it fluid. We gotta go this way and make it so sick. I wish I was healthy so that I could easily venture out in the world without fear of getting sick from COVID.
It was really hard to get out of bed because I'm an over-theater thinker, often stuck in my head. But I stand up in a crowd and I see everybody smile and grab the microphone. I'm living proud. Yo, but this is my vision. Let's get rid of money. Let's burn down capitalism. Let's start it again because it's all over the green. Let's all go underground so we can grow up just like sea.
And just like a tree, I know you get hyper. Welcome, we are the Bay Area Theater Cypher. We just came to make this up and freestyle off the head. I know it's like that, but you're feeling some dread. Now, are you sitting in your seats and you think we do it fluid? If you think you can do it better, then go ahead, do it. But for now, right now, just throw your hands to the sky. Cause you know right now we rep that 415. And we're here to stay fly till the day that we die. And make it so clean, yo, go with the wild. Yeah, tell them what's up.
Yes, yes. We got one more list right here. Make some noise for the freestyles. Make some noise for yourselves out there, putting yourselves out in the open, sharing your thoughts, sharing your feelings. I think we're gonna share a little bit more of our thoughts and our feelings. Carlos, why don't you come down and take a seat?
Oh, sure. That sounds good. Yes.
When you sit, oh, don't trick me. Because now you're my patient. Your name is Mickey. Tell me about that anxiety, Mickey. How you feeling?
I'm feeling okay, but actually, Mickey said a different thing this way.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm turning red like a hickey, but actually, I'm trying to think of my thoughts much more quickly so I don't get put on the spot in front of everybody. I'm just trying to be a mental dude who is also a hottie. What can I say? I'm do it this way. Yo, speaking of, I've been trying to do this at work and everybody just thinks I'm a jerk cause I'm late with the words. I'm trying to be superb and on time and I'm trying to be perfect every time that I rhyme. Now speaking of that, what's your name?
My name? Oh, my name is Leah.
Okay, Leah. Let's talk about what you're trying to get better at in life. Go ahead, free us.
Oh, standing, starting, fighting me. And my heart is beating so inside of me. Yes, it's feeling and I'm sweating down through my brain because I'm sitting here, got too much anxiety. It came from my mother, it passed to myself, my sisters got it, and everybody. That's the wealth, the health that I came to get. And so I ask you, is it the pill that I could take or should I just breathe in and out? Just like an avocation and just breathe in and out. Straight meditation, just breathe in and out so I could find my center. Doctor, tell me how I could live my life better.
Actually, I'm going through some trouble. It's nice to meet you. My name is Russell. And I've been thinking about this really sad dream where I don't have any self-esteem. I'm trying to get better in front of large crowds and I'm trying to speak proud and nice and loud. See, my skin is brown and I'm just afraid of that. People judge me everywhere I go. I'm a scaredy cat. But now I'm trying to get some self-esteem and be much better and rise to this just like the weather. So speaking of, now it's your turn, my man. What's your name?
Oh, my name is Dan. I represent from this theater crew, the Cypher is put together cause we grabbed the mic with many skills, many skids. Back in the day, we came to hear. I look out to the eye to stop without the fear. I'm feeling open, feeling hoping cause I got bereft. I see the cue, guess what? 1 minute left, and so we're coming to the end. This is the Cypher. Make some noise for the Bay Area Theater Cypher.
Yes, y'all. We got 1 minute, so give us 60 seconds while we run this for a bit. Yeah. All right. We got some words, 1 minute left, it's 60 seconds. You best believe I'm about to freestyle and straight wreck it. Give me some words, put them up on the board. I can do it in 30 seconds if you thank the Lord. Like, yo, I was given the gift right from heaven. And I don't see the words, so I'm just about to freestyle and make it leaven like bread. That's right, I'm coming right off the head. 415-510, that's just exactly what I said. Now, we're the Freestyle Cypher and clap your hands. Cause we did this whole thing without a live gap band. Yo, it's so crazy, KQED, a true definition of a real MC. That's damn, my name is Infinite. We're in the back straight pimping it, and that flow was kinda intricate. Thank you for listening, mine stays glistening. After that, if you're wishing in, gotta let it go, wrap it up, I am rapping. I'm making it up and throw it up for sure, yo, I'm throwing a dub. Thank you very much, yo, I had to let go. And hit me up later if you wanna hit my Venmo. Peace, y'all.
Thank y'all, thanks for having us.
And now, live from New York, Simon Adler!
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening. Thank you all for being here. I think you should all take a moment to pat yourselves on the back because you all made a decision tonight. You decided that you're going to be a better version of yourself. You decided that you can be whatever the heck it is you decide you want to be. And you know, that's no small thing. And I'm convinced that tonight we're going to discover each and every one of your true and unlimited potentials. No, we're not going to do any of that. Actually, no. Instead, I'm just going to tell you a couple little stories, but some stories about, I think as we just saw, we all have this sort of deep human need to improve. It's pretty weird. No other species seems to have this need or desire. We have it in spades. So we're going to talk about that, and then a bunch of wacky products that we made for ourselves that promise to help us do just that. So to kick things off tonight, I want to introduce you to this guy.
I'm Shad Helmstetter, and I'm glad to be with you.
Okay, well, you mind if I just jump in with some questions for you?
Please do.
Okay. Shad grew up in Minnesota. Today he lives in Florida. He can often be found in a bit of a suit. And as you'll hear, he speaks in this sort of soft, gentle, grandfatherly voice. And I called him up because, you know, he had this sort of life-changing experience back in 1981.
I was in a store in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Very possibly a Kmart.
Kmart offers gift certificates to make your shopping more enjoyable.
You know, the site of many a revelatory experience. Anyhow, he's walking up and down the aisles.
And I saw Sony's first blue and silver Walkman.
It was the Sony TPSL2. And Shad had never seen anything like it in his life. I know it looks like just a bit of a brick today when you're used to having a cell phone in your pocket, but this thing to Shad was mind-blowing. He picked it up, he held the headphones in his hands. He'd never worn headphones in public before, and so a little sheepishly,
I put the earphones in.
Press play.
And it was absolutely breathtaking and inspiring. I thought it was magic.
Shad was literally transformed by this experience, and he was not alone.
Tuning out and tuning in. About 750,000 people nationwide are doing just that.
I turn it up loud enough so I can drown out the sounds.
It just puts you in your own world all by yourself.
Where the Walkman went, these strange, sort of almost psychedelic experiences seemed to follow.
I remember vividly that walking or roller skating or dancing, there was this kind of disconnect from my normal everyday experience.
That is Juliet Christensen. She is a historian of design at the University of London. She has dug deep into the history of the Walkman here, as well as the iPod, and most recently, slime. But we're going to stick on the Walkman for now. So why was this such a big deal?
Why was the Walkman such a big deal?
Yeah.
Because you could choose your own music.
She thinks I'm so dumb.
I mean, it's simple as that. You could choose the sounds that you wanted to listen to. With a radio, it's a broadcast medium. So you're already tuned in to what someone else is choosing for you. And now suddenly you can choose your own soundscape. And you have these cassettes that you can swap with your friends. Even the idea of like a mixtape.
She says that for the first time, the Walkman made music private, mobile, and intimate. And that this made listening to music a totally different experience. She says the first time she put those headphones on, it felt like...
Suddenly I'm in this film, right? And I'm the star, and I'm Gene Kelly tap dancing through the streets, or, you know, something like that. And it brings a kind of lightness to my engagement with the world, which can be kind of joyful, but radically alters my understanding of society and culture, I think, and my engagement with the environment that I'm in.
She said it removed her from her surroundings in a really strange way, that She told me it was almost like up until that moment, her life was a documentary where she was filming and being part of sort of the situation around her, but that once she put those headphones on, it was almost like life became a blockbuster film, where she said is she was the protagonist. Now, to see what I think she means by that, I want to try a little thing with you all. You've got these headphones. Why don't we use them? We're going to watch a short little video clip together, and for added effect, we're going to listen to the soundtrack on these headphones. So if you haven't already, please take the headphones. I think I've got a pair up here. Yes.
Okay, if you're
put them
hearing
on,
this,
and,
that's great.
Yeah,
Means this is working.
Let's give this a try.
What I'm going to ask you to do here is super simple. Just look up at the screen, watch, and listen.
Okay, you can take your headphones off. Who wants to tell me about what they experienced there? Put your hand up. Somebody, come on. I'm going to just pick people otherwise. Okay, right there in the front. Tell me, what was the emotion? What was going on? And Lance is going to run around with the microphone.
It was a very bubbly soundtrack.
Okay.
Very electronic.
Okay. What was the feel? What did you feel?
It was like almost hopping through it, but
skipping through the mall. You were skipping through the mall.
But I was watching what was going on, and I think the music set the emotion. But I was still watching. I wasn't going through them all.
Okay, excellent. Okay, raise your hand if that sort of sounds like what you experienced. Okay, we've got some. Who absolutely didn't experience that? Okay, right there in the green shirt. What? Tell me a little bit about what you experienced.
Mine was a little spooky. I was waiting for something bad to happen.
Okay.
Music just had me a little tense. I was like, this looks like a normal mall, but something's gonna go down here. That was the vibe.
Okay, so we've got fear there. Okay, so we've got somebody who's bubbly, somebody who's fearful. Anybody else not relate to either of those? To make Lance's life easier, right there, white T-shirt.
Oh, mine was just super ethereal and just somebody walking through the mall.
Okay.
But muted sounds. It sounded like they were just, yeah.
What the heck's going on here, huh? No, okay, so obviously what we did here was, yes, each of you was assigned one of three sort of soundtracks to score your listening experience. We picked and made three very different things, hoping to evoke three very different emotions. And now, this experience you just all had is numbingly common today. I mean, when's the last time you put headphones in and moved through a space to your own little jam? I bet for most of you it was within the last 24 hours. But I wanted to do this little exercise, hopefully, to allow us to think for just a minute how strange it actually is to be in a space with a bunch of people together listening to different things. I mean, through sound alone, we were able to present you the same visual information and give you, maybe I'm overstating, but sort of wildly different emotional experiences. And for me, at least, this is the legacy of this device, of the Walkman. It changed the definition of together. Because we were all here, and there were three different tribes of you experiencing that little video clip that we had up on the screen. So, the Walkman made that happen starting in about 1981, and it was doing so right at the time that this politician was galloping in, hoping to change the definition of together in his own little way. Yes, the one and only Ronald Reagan, the man from this state here, California. Stick with me for a moment here. This guy, he is monumental to this little story of ours. He, like all presidents, had great sway over the national conversation. And what Reagan wanted to talk about was, yes, what I think we all remember, that government was bad. But the other thing that he talked about a lot, if you go back and listen to it, is just how great the men and women of this country are.
If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth.
Sounds a lot like that idea that the Walkman started to try kicking out. That's him from his 1981 inauguration. I think what Reagan did, amongst other things, obviously, was he put the individual front and center, and then, according to Juliet, sort of defined the decade and laid the foundation for what we're here to talk about tonight.
If you think about it, the 1980s is all about the individual and the self. Like, take care of yourself, be the best version that you can be. It's all about you and you. You. And you. And it's still something that we're dealing with today, I think.
There are no constraints on the human mind, no walls around the human spirit, no barriers to our progress except those we ourselves erect.
With all that in mind, let's get back to Shad, our Kmart walker from the beginning of the episode.
I recognized then that Sony would sell millions of them and others. And
Shad had heard Reagan's message, this sort of believe and achieve thing, and it resonated with him. And standing in that Kmart with the Walkman in his hand, Shad had an idea.
What if we could change how we think by listening to cassette tapes? I mean, what if you could wire someone's thoughts with a Walkman?
Now, as odd as that idea might sound, it had some grounding. Shad believed in the power of repetition.
Repetition is learning.
Back in the 60s, he was stationed with the Navy and was told to learn Spanish and to do it fast.
When you're in the military and you're told to do something, you tend to do it. And so I became reasonably fluent in a fairly short period of time.
And the way that he did it was by listening to Spanish language tapes on a big reel-to-reel tape player over and over and over and over and over again.
And that notion stuck. And I thought, well, if you can learn a whole new language by listening to it repeatedly,
why couldn't you learn a whole new way of thinking using the exact same technique?
To be more confident, for instance. And when I held that Sony Walkman in my hand, I remember thinking we now had a device that could deliver it to people.
And so what did Shad do? Well, he started making some really, really strange recordings. He titled them Self-Talk, and lucky for you, we have some queued up for you. We're going to let you listen to them through the headphones again, so if you would, put your headphones on, take a deep breath.
You are incredible. That's right. You have a lot going for you. You always did. And now it's time to let yourself live out the incredible potential that you were born with. You've had it all the time. You were born to be an exceptional human being. And each day you give yourself the winning words of self-talk that say, I like myself. I'm glad to be me. I like myself. I'm glad to be me. I like myself. I'm glad to be me.
Is anybody feeling more confident? Is anybody feeling really cringy? Whichever side of that you fall on, what you have to admit is that the guy's timing was impeccable.
I worked for the company back in the records days, and it was going nowhere.
This is Vic Conant. For years, he'd been trying to sell messages like Shad's on vinyl records with no success.
Kind of had to, shut down parts of the business to keep it surviving.
Imagine listening to that in your living room with your wife there with you, or your husband, or your kids. Wasn't going to work. However, suddenly with Reagan and the Walkman, and the exact same message now printed on a cassette tape.
The business took off. All of a sudden, we were selling millions of these cassettes every month.
Like a record exec, Vic went out and signed folks like Shad, published their material.
At one time, we had like 3 different studios, and authors would fly in.
And, at the beginning of this self-help boom, their products were very Reagan-esque and motivational, saying things like,
"You can be and have all that you want in life."
Playing this tape over and over again, you will develop your unlimited potential.
As time went on, customers began to demand more and more specific products, like how to improve their memory.
I'd like to personally welcome everyone to the Mega Memory Program.
Or how to be better at business.
The unspoken strategies for gaining power and getting ahead.
Welcome to How to Deliver Unpopular Messages, an instructional tape from American Management Association.
And eventually, things got very, very weird.
You're getting much closer now. Much closer, and you see yourself moving towards the light at the end. Number 3. You're getting very, very close now. Number 2, on the next count, you will step through the door into the past, and you will see yourself at the age of 15 in another time and another place. Number 1.
That's one of my favorite self-help gurus, a guy by the name of Dick Sutphin. And Dick's whole thing was that whatever the problem you have in your current life, it was caused by something that happened in a previous life. And so the only way that you could sort of exorcise your demons today was to be hypnotized by him and go back and re-experience and sort of change what had happened. Anyhow, the timing and the success of this stuff seems to bear out one of my favorite ideas. It's an idea by this guy, Marshall McLuhan, and it's that the medium is the message. The idea being that there was something just about the cassette tape, it being intimate, it being personal, that made this intimate, personal content pop in a way that it hadn't before. And I think nobody more than another one of my favorite self-help gurus, a guy by the name of Lloyd Glauberman, took this to its logical extreme. You know Lloyd?
Oh yeah, and Lloyd was great. He had a very unique way of self-improvement. To this day, I've never heard anybody else do this. He would tell 2 stories at once.
He called this hypno-peripheral processing. I think, sorry, Dick Sutphin, this is my favorite self-help concept. You're going to have to put your headphones on again for this to have the full experience. Again, take a nice deep breath and drift away.
As the group met was similar in the large to auditorium the man they had experienced before. Idea. He was exactly in a theater. What was in store, watching for them a movie, for the information and secure that they had. But the movie was sketchy, did not have a plot line. All they knew that he could understand was that they were, and as hard as he tried to begin, he was stuck.
I mean, I think it's fair to ask what the hell is going on there. There are these 2, like, maybe fairy tales. If you try to pay attention to one, you lose the other.
Okay, I'm going to tell you the trick, how the trick is done right now. I'm going to expose the contents of this idea, which, by the way, The first time it happened, it was an accident.
That's Lloyd in real life, not making the best sales pitch for himself there. I sat down with him a couple years back, and as he told me, these tapes are almost like those images that you have to cross your eyes to sort of see what's in them. These tapes, if you want to hear the hypnotic message embedded within them, what you have to do is listen to what is being said between the two stories. So, for example, if the story in the right ear says,
the word feel,
in the left ear, what would often follow was
the word better.
Okay.
So the listener at that moment in time, the only thing that's actually available for that split 2 seconds is feel better. As if I were giving you a direct suggestion to feel better.
Okay, so to finish off this first little act here, let's confront the elephant in the room. Does any of this stuff work? I have no idea. But more importantly, I don't really care. I have listened to a lot of this stuff over the last couple years. And pretty much what is at the heart of all of these tapes is a very simple message, that if you want to improve, the first step is simply to believe that you can do it. Now, I know that this advice rings very trite, maybe a little less in California than it would in New York, but it rings trite, especially in this sort of pessimistic moment we find ourselves living in. And I think maybe that's why I really like these things, especially right now. They're sort of a reminder of this idea I said at the top, that, we humans, we don't accept things as they are. We have this desire to improve and this capacity to believe that the best is yet to come.
If we just believe the best is yet to come.
Okay, with all that in mind, let's move on to the next little segment of this puppy here. I'm really excited to invite to the stage just a hell of a mind, Tara Isabella Burton. Please put your hands together for her. Thank you for being here, Tara. I am really excited to have you here for a number of reasons, but first and foremost, it is because if I've done my job, I think I just laid out a fine little argument that it was the Walkman and Ronald Reagan that collided to create self-help as we know it today, and I think you're here to tell me I am completely wrong.
I am not here to tell you that you're completely wrong.
Oh, good, okay. You can, okay, that was a nice little interview.
I think you're mostly right.
Okay, well, let's get into the me being wrong stuff. But before, why are we listening to you? Why should we believe that you're more right than I am? Who are you, if you wouldn't mind telling the audience?
So I write about the intersection of religion, wellness culture, self-help, and self-creation for a living. So my first book, Strange Rites, New Religions for a Godless World, was about the spiritual but not religious and the internet and wellness culture and how that all creates a wonderfully weird cocktail culturally. And my forthcoming book, Self-Made, Creating Our Identities from Da Vinci to the Kardashians, deals in part with the history of self-help and self-improvement in America. So it is my job.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, so you've got the pedigree. Let's dive into it then. Based on my reading of your work, you consider self-help to be, if not a religion, sort of proto-religious. Do you mind, make the argument to me that this is not just some wonky thing that happened in the 1980s, but there's something deeper going on here?
Sure. Well, American self-help culture in particular, I think, is deeply rooted in this wider kind of metaphysical American assumption, and it is distinctly American. We start seeing in the 19th century onwards that there's this kind of energy, vibes, if you will, out there in the universe. And that by looking inwards and focusing on ourselves and kind of connecting inwardly, we can get in touch with those vibes, and those vibes will help us get what we want, especially if it's being rich. That is just a sort of religious, theological, cosmological, whatever you want to call it. It is an underpinning of so much of American cultural life and has been at least from the 19th century onwards.
Okay, well, then let's go back to the 19th century. Where did this start if we're going to believe you and not me that it started in 1980, right?
So the real phenomenon that I identify as the birth of this phenomenon, this culture in America, is something called New Thought, or the mind cure.
Quite the name. Good branding.
Yeah, they both sound really, really cool. I think the mind cure sounds a little cooler, but basically in the 1860s in New England, a watchmaker named Phineas Quimby got interested in a then popular kind of practice, faith healing. Basically, let's say not quite medically established forms of healing someone who was sick. And Phineas Quimby...
Putting your hands over people.
Sure. Or mesmerism, named for Franz Mesmer, a practitioner, hypnotizing someone into getting well. And Phineas Quimby had a problem, which is that what he was doing didn't seem to work. Or it worked sometimes. And he asked himself, why is this only working sometimes? Could it be that what I'm doing is not effective? No, the problem must be with the patients. And his vision of New Thought was that the people who didn't get better was because they didn't want to get better. They were just being stubborn. They were just not focusing on health. They just didn't have the right mindset. And he began practicing, teaching this New Thought, this idea that he could kind of teach positive thinking yourself into health. And while he didn't write about this, he had many students and admirers, among whom was Mary Baker Eddy, founder of the Christian Science tradition, which sort of fused New Thought with Christianity. And then a kind of whole rash of early self-help gurus, what we can call early wellness culture, developed around teaching New Thought. Even William James was talking about how everybody was doing the mind cure. You couldn't even talk about being sick in Boston. You couldn't mention you had a cold because people would go, no, don't mention your cold. You're thinking negatively. You'll get sick.
Well, if I can jump in, I will say that this idea of mind over matter, that if I think it sort of can be possible, I totally take that for granted, because honestly, I'm moving through the world with that as an assumption. But you're saying that this was not an assumption prior to 1860 so?
Not to the same extent, no.
Okay.
And I think particularly because it was so tied in to kind of other developments that were going on at the time, particularly in the late half of the 19th century, interest in electricity and evolution and these kind of scientific terms that reach the popular consciousness less as science and more as kind of a pseudo-scientific jumble. But there was this fascination with the idea that there are these currents out there in the universe, and maybe by looking inwards we could kind of harness them. There's a lot of language of personal magnetism, for example, or these sort of electric currents of thinking, where the idea is that there's some kind of scientific discovery that's going on that we don't fully understand that leads us to the conclusion that we can think our way into originally getting healthy, and then towards the end of the 19th century and into the 20th century into getting rich.
Okay, yes, that's very American. So if we take you at your word that this started back then, what's your take on my idea that Reagan played a big part in this? Because come on, Ronald Reagan, he's a nice, easy punching bag. Come on, it was his fault.
Oh boy, I partially agree.
Okay, great.
But I think it's very easy to kind of set up this straw man of kind of Reagan and conservatives as doing something distinct at that time, when actually a lot of the language of self-actualization and self-optimization and kind of getting in touch with your authentic self and looking inwardly started in a very different political place in the counterculture of the 1960s. And this sort of cultural interest in being true to oneself and looking inward because it again, got you in touch with what the universe wanted for you, not originally necessarily applied to getting really rich, but certainly I think by the Reagan era transformed into that.
But it sounds like what you're saying here is that Reagan isn't to blame or to be credited. It was the California hippies that were to blame.
Mostly yes and no. I'd say it's the intersection of a certain kind of, California hippie counterculture and this wider American spiritual capitalism fusing together into the worst possible combination.
Okay, one idea that you have in your book that sort of crystallizes or sort of at least gives me context to understand the hippies' role in all this is this difference between an institutional religion and an intuitional religion. Do you mind defining the two of those and sort of talking about how we here in this country have a tendency of oscillating wildly between the two of them?
Sure. It's a definition a binary I set out in my book, Strange Rites, that the institutional religion, think of, every Sunday or Friday, what have you, there's, you go to your place of worship and it's a kind of civic thing that you do with your community, and how you personally feel about it doesn't really matter. It's a collective endeavor. And intuitional religion being what matters is my personal relationship with the divine, my feelings, emotional, religious feelings, my sense of connection. And from the 18th century onwards, we've really seen this sort of pendulum swinging back and forth in American religious life, from the Methodist circuit riders of the 18th century to the burned over district, the 19th century, and onward into the 20th century, the rise of evangelicalism, for example, all doing the same sort of thing, which is like these people, they're going to usually church in these discourses, going to church and they're sitting in the pews and they're, going to coffee hour, but it doesn't mean something. We want it to mean something. And then you fast forward a few generations and the sort of the people who are all about the feeling become the next institution, and then a kind of new wave of American religious seekers crops up to say, we're looking for something authentic, something real, something true.
And that would be sort of, I presume, 1950s institutionalism. We won the war. We're doing great. Everybody's got a family in a front yard. Counterculture comes in.
Absolutely. It's the same. I would call it another great awakening in American religious life, which is a term used to describe some of these kind of earlier outcroppings of religious fervor, this one being not Christian, distinctly, or not exclusively Christian, but being this kind of kindling of various sentiments, all in pursuit of emotional reality and perceived authenticity. The idea that if you can look inward at yourself, at what you quote unquote truly want, you will discover a reality that is more real, more in touch with what the universe wants, those vibes of the universe again, than what society has set up for you, which is kind of largely illusory. And that is a very distinctly American approach to reality.
Well, I have to ask then, why are we this way?
I think a mixture of factors, too long to get into here, but I think that the American sort of experiment onwards has always been about this idea that we can do things differently. We can be somewhere where we can be self-made people who determine our own destinies through who we are and not through society around us, not through the circumstances of our birth, whatever they may be, or the kind of social world into which we are born. We can make our own destinies. And there's a sort of the optimistic version of that. You find this in the writings, for example, of Frederick Douglass on self-made men, where this is and he meant for him, of course, and
yes.
the time he was lecturing on this. He sort of, for him, this is a brilliant vision of an America that can transcend the corruption of the old world. And yet there's the flip side, which is America as a place where if you don't manifest your way into health and wealth, it must mean you're doing something wrong and it's your fault. Two sides of the same coin.
Right. Well, two more questions for you. One is, How do you feel about the final leg of my argument, which is that this, and hey, I'm quoting a smart guy, Marshall McLuhan, the medium is the message. Like the Walkman, the cassette, there was something about them that made this thing do what it did.
I mostly agree with you.
Okay. But you're being too kind.
So the medium is the message. I do believe that, I do. But what's so fascinating about your argument to me is that similar arguments were made about another piece of technology that sort of made the experience private, the book. And there's so many scholars of particularly the Protestant Reformation who have written on the relationship between the development of the book, something you can, and the rise, of course, of wider literacy, and the fact that when you're alone with the book and you have your personal private relationship with the text, that's something different from needing a priest, a church, an intermediary, an authority to kind of tell you what to believe. And just as I think the book and the Protestant Reformation go hand in hand in a certain vision of what it is to have a private religious life, so too I think do all media developments that kind of change how we interact with one another, also change how we think about the self and our relationship with the world.
Well, then last question. Thus far, we've only moved up to, say, 1988 in our little story here. What is the internet doing to our understanding of ourselves and all of
well, I think what the internet is doing is, I think, fascinating because simultaneously it's taking a lot of these tendencies, into overdrive. We are able to have these completely personalized worlds, but something different from, let's say, the book, the printed book, or the Walkman, is that we're also co-creators on the internet. We're able to shape our own realities as well as privately receive them. And I think that is leading increasingly to a cultural sense, a desire to sort of have ownership of stories in a certain way, to be more active in shaping, curating, remixing our understanding of the world around us. I think fewer and fewer of us are content to receive. And I'm curious about, in the future of the self-help, what that means, because I think we're less willing to just take advice wholesale. We want to remake it in our own image.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tara Isabella Burton.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks so much
much.
for your time. We'll see you later.
Well, my microphone just fell out of my back pocket. Okay, we've got one more story for you here tonight. It's a positive story. Tara trying to make self-help sound bad and all that. This will give you a little bit of faith again, I hope. It's a story of maybe the most profound story of self-help and people just believing in something and managing to get it done. Okay. It's a story that was originally told to me by the guy you heard opening a beer right there. His name is Zach Taylor, and he's a documentary maker, as well as a big fan of cassette tapes.
I shot and directed a documentary called Cassette, a documentary mixtape.
How many cassette tapes do you think you have?
Oh my gosh. I probably have a couple thousand.
Anyhow, story starts summer of 1969 with three guys you've probably heard of, Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and Michael Collins. And as you know, these guys are preparing to go to the moon. But what you might not know is that along with all of their gear, each of them was given this thing that no man had ever held before.
The name of this thing was the TC-50. It looked like a sleek, elegant, minimalist aluminum brick.
And what it was really was a proto-Walkman. 10 years before the consumer model came out, these guys were gifted one of these things. Now, you might be wondering, a spaceship, you want every ounce counts. Like, why did they allow them to bring these things?
Oh, I mean, the more I think about it, the more mission critical this thing is, because you are...
mission critical?
Yeah, yes, mission critical.
As Zach explained, the TC-50 here, unlike the later Walkman, had a record function. And so the idea was...
This is a replacement for pen and paper. It's your audio journal. because the gloves that these guys used is not like conducive to like taking a pen and putting it to paper and jotting down your thoughts.
And so, July 16th, 1969, after lifting off with bulky gloves and Walkmans in their hand, I think we're waiting for a video cue here. There we are. Again, July 1969, these guys lift off.
These three astronauts had about a 3 days journey to get to the moon, or to get to the moon's orbit.
And as they were flying through space, NASA, back down on the ground, they could actually hear these guys using their Walkmans, just not as recorders.
This is Apollo Control at 59 hours, 9 minutes. Apollo 11 now 182,000 nautical miles from Earth, and a velocity down 3,072 feet per second. The intermittent music that we're getting is apparently coming from the spacecraft. The crew has on board portable tape recorders with music on the tapes.
Yeah, each of the astronauts had been given a personalized mixtape with music on it that they brought up with them.
And apparently the music is triggering the Vox-operated microphones, and we're getting intermittent music down from the spacecraft.
Now, NASA did co-sign all of this. The thought was, we got to send them up with tapes to record onto. Might as well fill them up with music first.
NASA had a mixtape guy. Mickey Capp, the record executive, would go ask each astronaut, hey, what's your favorite song? Okay, thank you. Hold my beer. I'll come back with a mixtape for you.
And as Zach tells it, the music these guys requested and brought with them, well, it offers a little peek into each of their personalities. So, for example, the straight-laced, square mission commander, Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong's cassette has this kooky album from the 40s on it.
That's an old favorite of mine. It's an album made about 20 years ago called Music Out of the Moon.
A little hard to hear there, but yes, Neil Armstrong went to the moon with an album called Music Out of the Moon. And these songs, they're basically just a full orchestra accompanying that sound-producing theremin.
Neil Armstrong, like that was his jam.
And Neil, he played this stuff so often and so loudly that there were times where NASA would have to call up and say, hey, Neil.
Well, we appreciate you turning that off.
Can you turn that music off, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buzz Aldrin, the big talking space cowboy of the three, he filled his tapes with, well, a lot of Americana and country music.
Galveston, oh Galveston, I still hear your sea waves crashing.
Songs like Glenn Campbell's Galveston there, and this song Mother Country by a guy named John Stewart.
Oh, Mother Country, I do love you.
And then sort of most famously and questionably true, Buzz picked a song for this grand theatrical moment. Story goes that they landed on the moon, Buzz and Neil, and
Buzz Aldrin reaches behind him, behind a seat, pulls out his TC-50, his proto Walkman, presses play to
Fly me to the moon.
Let me
play among the stars.
Are you serious?
That's the legend. That's the legend. That's how the story goes.
Yeah, so the thing is, Buzz did tell this story on multiple occasions, but years later, after sobering up, he said, maybe that didn't happen.
But listen, if a whole building of rocket scientists can believe enough to send these three young men out into space, then I am going to exercise this little, faith the size of a mustard seed, because what an amazing moment.
Now, this moment and these playlists generally are the sort of strange, forgotten, possibly partially invented bits of history that people who are into cassettes like me can't get enough of. And I think that's sort of all this would have been had it not been for the third astronaut on the mission, a guy by the name of Michael Collins. Now, it turns out that Michael Collins here, his playlist has been lost to time. I contacted NASA's archives, I contacted the National Archives, I contacted the Smithsonian. No one has any idea where this tape is or much of what was ever on it, which I think is sort of fitting.
Michael Collins is the one guy nobody knows. The third wheel. He's just the guy who, in history, they couldn't have done it without him. They really needed him. What did they need him for? But Michael Collins was the linchpin in all this stuff. Michael Collins was the one who made sure that they, first of all, got to the moon, and more importantly, made sure that they got home.
So, to pick the story up, July 20th, 1969, 4 days into the mission, around 11 a.m. here in San Francisco, it's time for Buzz and Neil to actually go down to the moon. And what that means is Buzz and Neil, they have to crawl into this detachable section of the spacecraft, the lunar landing module that they called the Eagle, and they buckled themselves in, and then they detached from Mike Collins. And what that meant was that the whole time that they were down there on the moon, Collins would be up there in space all by himself, just waiting.
Michael Collins had 21 and a half hours, almost a full day, where it's just him alone orbiting the moon from about 60 miles above.
And crazier still, half the time he's up there, he is in total darkness. Because every 48 minutes, he passed behind the dark side of the moon, meaning no light and no contact.
Yes, half the time the moon itself is shielding him from communication with Houston, with the Earth, even with the two dudes that are down there on the moon.
Apollo 11, this is Houston. All your systems are looking good. Going around the corner. We'll see you on the other side. Over. Roger. This is Apollo Control. We do not lost the signal now. We'll reacquire the spacecraft again on the 15th revolution in about 45 minutes.
Mike Collins did this 23 times, 23 times for 48 minutes at a time. All he had was his heartbeat, his thoughts, and the darkness. And while he's sitting up there, he knows that the hardest and the riskiest moment of this damn mission are yet to come. Because before they can go home, of course, Buzz and Neil need to blast off from the moon. And they've got to do it at just the right time so that they can get back into the moon's orbit at just the right spot so that Collins can grab them. And as if that wasn't enough,
there was no way to test the engines on the Eagle taking off from the moon. There was no way to test it. It was completely untested. It was an unknown.
Yeah, we just didn't understand the moon's gravity well enough to really predict how this was going to go.
So what happens if, the engine doesn't have quite enough gas to get them back to the orbiter? Or what if they overshoot it? And privately, the 3 astronauts gave themselves about a 50-50 chance of getting off the moon. So Michael Collins is orbiting all by himself, wondering if he's going to return to Earth alone or as part of a 3-person crew successfully having visited the moon.
This is Apollo Control. Collins has gone behind the moon on the 23rd lunar revolution. While he waits for his comrades to rejoin him for the trip back to Earth.
I mean, here is just how alone Michael Collins was.
When Neil gave his famous thing, that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, Michael Collins didn't hear any of that. He was already on the dark side of the moon.
So in this moment that literally the entire Earth is experiencing something together, he remains alone, disconnected, and out of touch from all of it.
Exactly. So, oh my gosh, this is what I keep going back to. This is where having a Walkman, having this hunk of aluminum with the record button, this is where this suddenly becomes, as I said, mission critical.
Because while Collins is up there, the most solitary man in the history of the universe, to calm his nerves or get the voices out of his head, he turned to his cassette tape. He pulled out his Walkman, his TC-50, and he hit record.
And said, my secret terror for the last 6 months has been leaving them on the moon and returning to Earth alone. Now I am within minutes of finding out the truth of the matter. Dude, if you're alone, if you're on the dark side of the moon and all you have is a Walkman, how is that cassette not your very best friend? The closest thing you have to another human being, a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on. I think that cassette is a life raft.
Now, of course, Buzz and Neil did make it off, and Collins got them home in one piece. But I think what's so striking about those words that Collins recorded is that for a moment, out loud, he acknowledged that they might not. I mean, throughout this mission, doubt was just not a feeling that was really allowed in the room. I mean, I've listened to, at this point, dozens of hours from this mission, and both the crew and the folks at Mission Control, in every word they say, sound convinced that this mission was going to be a success. Now, were they deluding themselves? Were they just telling themselves that, if we believe this is so, it can be so? Very possibly. But if they hadn't taken that first step, I'm not sure Neil ever would have.
Where the blue of the night meets the gold of the day, someone waits for me.
That is our show tonight. Thank you all so much for coming. A couple of real quick thank yous. Thank you. Big thank you to Sarah, Rose Leonard, and Lance Gardner for producing this whole thing with me, making the whole thing possible. To Danny, Neil, Mike, and Jim back in the booth for making all the sound and all the visuals work. To Soren Wheeler for his editorial guidance. Alex Overington for helping make some of the music you heard. Tara Isabella Burton for bringing her knowledge and intellect. Seriously, check out her books. You won't be disappointed. Zach Taylor for his help with Act 3. And to my wife, Barbara, for everything. Thank you all for coming. And have a good night.
Of the night meets the gold of the day. Someone